Now, as we continue with the story that we find in Luke chapter 1, story about Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. We spoke in part 1 of this road trip message that the Bible said both Elizabeth and Zechariah were righteous in the eyes of God and were blameless in all their conduct, yet they had no child. They were childless. Now, the story gets interesting because as Zechariah was serving in the temple, an angel came and appeared to him and came with a message. And the message that the angel had was that your prayer has been heard. We find this in verse 13 of chapter 1 of Luke. Your prayer has been heard. You can almost imagine that Zechariah and his wife, from the time he got married, maybe he was 20 years old, maybe now he's in the 70s, he has been praying the same prayer. And Gabriel comes here and says to Zechariah, he says, Pastor Zakes, your prayer has been heard. Oh, God has not really been giving you a silent treatment. It's not that he doesn't care. It is not because maybe you are sinful or whatever. No, your prayer has been heard. And I would like to believe there's someone here, someone listening today, and they're wondering because they've been praying for something, and you've been praying for this same thing maybe over years, that you've been praying for it. But the message here that comes to Pastor Zakes and to many of us who have been praying maybe for something, some intervention, for some divine intervention, he says your prayer has been heard. Now, if the prayer has been heard, why has not seen the delivery? If the Lord has heard my prayer the first time I prayed, why has there not been change? Now, and here, Zechariah, we need to understand he was praying for a son so that can continue with his legacy like other sons. But God had a bigger plan for the son of Zechariah and Elizabeth. Somehow, though Zechariah thought himself as an ordinary priest and just doing his bit for the Lord and faithful to God's instruction, he never realized that he was going to be part of a bigger cosmic plan. Something much bigger than his clan, bigger than anything he can ever imagine. Because suddenly his son is part of this great divine plan of salvation of mankind. Something that has been waited upon from the time of Adam, the promised seed of a woman who is going to crush the head of a serpent, that his son is going to be the forerunner for this. So he thought, I'm just going to do my little thing. I'm just going to have my son and leave a little inheritance for him and so on. But God had a bigger plan. We need to understand that even as we make our plans for our lives, there is this huge plan that God has. And sometimes our plans intersect with the plan of God. That sometimes our plan becomes a small part in the greater plan of God, and it must be moved in the right timing of the plan of God. it must fit in then. So John could not be born when Zechariah was 20 years old, or when he was 40 or 50 or 60, because it is not within the greater timing that God has for him as a forerunner of Christ. And you look into your life and you say, why? Others have been praying for a breakthrough, and my neighbors, my friends, and all others are having the breakthrough, but not me. I've been praying for a car, for a house, for a spouse, and all of those things, and everybody else seems to be getting there, but failing to realize that sometimes it's not just about you. It's about something much bigger than you. There is a greater cosmic plan that is at play, and somehow you are privileged to fit into this divine plan. And that's why sometimes even as you pray, you say, not my will, but let your will be done. Let your greater will be the one that is done. And the songwriter says we will understand by and by, because that's when we will understand how our little plans that seems to have failed, but they have not failed because God was making sure, delaying them, making sure they fit into his greater plan. Moreover, you're wondering why you are pregnant and yet you're not delivering. A cow, just like a human being, delivers a calf after 9 months. But an elephant delivers after 22 months. And maybe you just thought you are an ordinary cow, but you do not realize that there is much bigger plan. You are not an ordinary cow. You are an elephant, and you are not gonna do 9 months. That's why you remain pregnant with your plan. You remain pregnant with your ideas, pregnant with your ministry, pregnant, but yet it's not delivering yet, because you are not going to deliver a little calf, because you are going to deliver a baby elephant. That's why your delivery date cannot be like everybody else. Zechariah and his wife took many years, 50 years for them to deliver, because him they were going to bring to this world was going to change the world. And Christ talks about him. He says, of all born of a woman, there is none like John. God has a bigger plan. May the Lord bless you.